Chris Kanyon is remembered as one of the most innovative minds in professional wrestling. He earned a reputation as a true professional who was well-liked by his peers and respected for his knowledge and love of the industry. But beneath the surface, Kanyon struggled with issues that wrestling fans never saw. A battle between his passion for the business and the personal demons that followed him throughout his life. This is the story of a man who gave everything to the wrestling business, even when it seemed to give nothing back. Christopher Klutzeritz grew up in Queens, New York. Before entering the world of wrestling, he earned a degree in physical therapy from the University of Buffalo. However, after working as a physical therapist for 3 years, he decided to pursue his true passion, professional wrestling. Chris trained at the Lower East Side Gym in Manhattan in 1992, and learning the ropes came incredibly easily to him. It wasn't long before he began practicing his craft in independent promotions like Smoky Mountain Wrestling. His early career saw him take on the role of enhancement talent for ECW, the USWA, and even the WWF, where he was used to make established wrestlers look good. Though he was never going to win these matches, it was a testament to his fast-growing reputation as a reliable worker. In 1995, Kanyon arrived in WCW, where he continued his career as enhancement talent. He viewed this as an opportunity to work hard and prove that he belonged in one of the world's biggest wrestling organizations. Kanyon's first real opportunity came when he was paired with Mark Starr to form a tag team called Men at Work. This gimmick rebranded them as construction workers who brought tape measures to the ring and pretended to check the ropes. While the gimmick was half-baked, Chris approached it with the same professionalism that would define the rest of his career. Men at Work never made much of an impact and were quietly broken up in 1996. However, this stint gave Kanyon the chance to have competitive matches on TV every week. Later that year, WCW unveiled the Blood Runs Cold storyline, an attempt by Eric Bischoff to capitalize on the popularity of the Mortal Kombat franchise. Chris was repackaged as Mortis, a sinister masked wrestler positioned alongside 2 other Mortal Kombat-inspired characters, Glacier and Wrath. Mortis made his official debut in 1997, squaring off with Glacier in a feud straight out of a bad action movie. As always, Chris poured all his effort into making the character work. However, the Blood Runs Cold storyline arrived at the wrong time. This was the era when the NWO was dominating WCW, and these Mortal Kombat-style characters felt like they belonged in a completely different universe. Despite the storyline's failure, Chris stood out under the Mortis mask. Backstage, he earned a reputation as one of the most innovative minds in the wrestling business. His peers noticed his relentless passion and dedication. He was also known for being one of the most generous wrestlers in the ring, often going out of his way to make his opponents look strong and suggesting creative spots to highlight their strengths. For Kanyon, the quality of the match mattered more than winning or losing. This selflessness earned him respect among his colleagues. The Mortis character was eventually retired, but Chris had proven his worth. He re-emerged as Kanyon and joined Raven's Flock, his first major storyline. The group, a depressive, grungy cult, allowed Kanyon to evolve his character. He portrayed a wayward loser desperate for Raven's approval. During his time in the Flock, Kanyon's unique offensive style truly stood out. He introduced moves fans had never seen before, cementing his reputation as an innovator. After the Flock disbanded, Kanyon joined forces with DDP and Bam Bam Bigelow to form the Jersey Triad. This alliance blended DDP's charisma, Bigelow's brute force, and Kanyon's creativity in the ring. Together, they captured the WCW Tag Team titles twice, using the Freebird rule, which allowed any 2 members of the group to defend the titles. The Jersey Triad marked a departure from the darker tone of Raven's Flock, giving Kanyon the opportunity to showcase a cocky, overconfident side of his personality. His versatility in portraying different characters and his seamless transitions between power moves, technical wrestling, and high spots made him stand out. Kanyon's contributions extended beyond what fans saw on TV. Behind the scenes, WCW frequently relied on him to train celebrities. Dennis Rodman, Karl Malone, Jay Leno, and even David Arquette all benefited from Kanyon's guidance. With Kanyon preparing for their matches, some wrestlers might have hated the idea of spending their time training outsiders. However, Kanyon approached it with the same dedication he brought to his matches. It was yet another example of his professionalism and commitment to the wrestling industry. Before WCW went out of business, Kanyon had a memorable feud with DDP, which stood out as one of the better storylines during the company's final days. After WCW's closure, Kanyon transitioned to the WWF. For a brief moment, it seemed like he was on the brink of elevating his career to the next level as part of the Alliance during the Invasion storyline. Kanyon made his debut on SmackDown alongside other former WCW talent. His highlight during this period was reuniting with DDP to capture the WWF Tag Team titles. It felt like a moment of validation for his hard work. However, the good times didn't last long. The first setback came when Kanyon suffered a torn knee ligament in a dark match against a young Randy Orton. This injury sidelined him at a critical moment when the wrestling landscape was evolving, and competition for spots on the WWF roster was fierce. The influx of WCW talent had bloated the WWF's roster, turning it into a battle for survival. Simply being absent meant Kanyon lost his place. When he returned from the injury, he was sent down to OVW, WWE's developmental territory at the time. Unfortunately, after only a few weeks back in the ring, he suffered another injury, this time to his shoulder. It was severe, and the aftermath was even worse. Chris faced complications from the medication he was prescribed, which caused fluid to build up in his lungs. He was hospitalized for months as he struggled to recover, gradually regaining his strength until he could return to wrestling. When he was finally called back up to the main roster, nearly a year had passed since his last appearance on television. There was some hope when the Mortis character was resurrected and tested in front of live crowds, but in the end, the idea went nowhere. Kanyon was used as enhancement talent in dark matches until early 2003, when he was finally given another chance to shine. Unfortunately, this opportunity turned into a deeply humiliating experience. In a segment on SmackDown, Kanyon emerged from a gift box presented to The Undertaker by The Big Show. He was dressed as Boy George. The segment ended with The Undertaker brutally beating Kanyon down with a chair shot. Kanyon had previously pitched an idea to the creative team about becoming an openly gay wrestler, hoping to break away from the usual stereotypes. However, the idea was dismissed and laughed off by the team. Chris believed that the humiliating segment was WWE's way of mocking him for his suggestion. That idea, after a year of occasional appearances on Velocity, came to an end. Kanyon's time with the company concluded in February 2004. Rumors started to spread online about his sexuality. He told people it was a wrestling gimmick and a publicity stunt, but the pressure mounted until he felt he had no choice but to acknowledge his truth. For Chris, this was a courageous step in an industry that wasn't exactly known for its inclusivity at the time. However, the conflicting messages he sent during this period revealed how deeply he was struggling with his identity. Privately, his mental health took a significant downturn. He was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and his friends began noticing erratic behavior. He had started hoarding unusual items like bottle caps, newspapers, and printouts of fan emails. Despite these struggles, there were still moments of brilliance. He occasionally appeared at independent wrestling events, showcasing flashes of his incredible talent. But as his health declined, his performances became inconsistent. Chris also embarked on a legal battle against WWE, filing a lawsuit challenging the company's classification of wrestlers as independent contractors. While the case was unsuccessful, it reflected how disillusioned he had become with an industry he once loved. As time passed, Chris became more isolated. He confided in those closest to him about feelings of despair, even expressing suicidal thoughts in the weeks leading up to his death. Tragically, on April 2, 2010, Chris's brother found him dead in his apartment in New York. He had taken his own life by overdosing on antidepressants, leaving behind a note apologizing to his family. He was only 40 years old. In a heartfelt tribute, DDP said, "The very God's honest truth is, the guy I loved to work in the ring with the most was Chris. We were both about the same size, and we worked so much together training guys down at the camp that we knew each other's moves before we ever did them. That's why it looked like we'd rehearsed a million times, but we didn't. We could just flow. It was amazing. He was incredible. He was a great friend. He will be truly missed. It seems Chris gave everything to wrestling. Yet, despite his immense talent and sharp mind, the business never repaid him in the same way.